Hello, everyone. Welcome to my third attempt in trying to host a webinar on reviewing my favorites or what's new for Inventor 2021 release. My first webinar a couple weeks ago was canceled due to audio problems we were experiencing. And recently, our rescheduled one had to be canceled as well because Inventor decided to crash while presenting and then locked up on its restart. So hopefully, third time is the charm. So let's get started. So the very first thing that's on my playlist or my favorites of Inventor 2021 is the naming conventions. Now, the naming convention has been around since the Inventor 2019 release, which was part of the Inventor Frame Generator. And then for 2020, it rolled over into Tube and Pipe, and now it's in the mirror and copy functions. So if we go to Tools, Application Options, the File tab, File Name Defaults, you can see the three tabs associated to Frame Generator, Tube and Pipe, and Mirror and Copy. For 2021, the Mirror and Copy has been added, so you can name your files based on when you do a mirroring or a copying. A nice new feature that's been added in 2021, and we'll talk more about when we get in the Frame Generator and Tube and Pipe, is the icon associated. Make it correlation between the files that you're naming and the icon that you would see in the Inventor browser. The Add Attribute button that's been there, if you've been used to naming your files for Frame Generator and Tube and Pipe, has now been changed to a plus sign. So when we click on the plus sign, we have the options as part of our naming convention. For 2021, things that have been added is the date and timestamp that's there. Give you more flexibility in defining your file name. When we talk about the location, there's additional paths that have been added for the location, making it allow you to more control or more automated in defining where your files are going. And finally, the last thing that's been added for 2021 is the ability to use your file name as a display name. Right? In the past, you would have to do that manually through the browser. Now you have the option to do it. When we toggle over to Frame Generator, you can see there's some changes here. The big key here, because this has been asked a couple times, well, when they talk about the frame assembly or when they talk about the skeleton part, what am I naming? So having these icons on here make it easier for you to understand when you're naming something, it's related to that given component under a frame generator or a tube and pipe or a mirror and copy operation. Again, we have the file name as display name. Another thing that's been added is the ability to control the bill of material structure up front of the frame assembly. It's always been Phantom, but you have the ability to control it. You had the ability to do this before, but you had to go through the Tools Document Settings Bill of Material tab to do that. Again, the Add Attribute button has been replaced with a plus sign. We still have the date and time stamps. Our location paths, we can develop those. And finally, the last thing that's been added is the Use Assembly Units. When you define a name and maybe you're including the sizes of those components, you have the ability to say, I want you to use the assembly units value instead of the value from the part component. So that allows you to do that. If we go over Tube and Pipe, as you can see, if you've already looked at this in 2020, it's changed a little for 2021. Again, we have the icons representing our different, piping, our master pipe, our run assemblies, our routes, the pipe segments and those type of things. But the big key here, when it was initially released in 2020, you only had the ability to define the same naming conventions for all the pipes routes that you were creating, whether it was rigid, flexible, or bendable tubing. Now you have the ability to control each one of those and make it unique based on your standards. So it's not just defining one naming convention for everything. Now you have the ability to name each type of pipe route and pipe segment that you're going. So that's a nice little feature that's been added. Again, we have the file name as display name and the ability to do the bill of material structure for our master pipe run and our individual pipe runs themselves. So they've always been there. Again, just like in Frame Generator, you would go to Tools, Document Setting, and change the bill of material structure, but now you have the ability to define them up front. Because I am a Frame Generator junkie for Inventor, that tops my second favorite for what's new in Inventor 2021. For this release, all the dialogue for Inventor Frame Generator functions have been changed from dialogues to the property panels. Property panels switchover has been happening since Inventor 2018, and now for 2021, it's impacting the Frame Generator interface. So if we go to Insert Frame, we can see the Properties panel for an insert frame. Again, if I go to Change, the Change Frame Properties panel. If I go to Miter, you can see all these functions inside of an Inventor Frame Generator has now been changed from a dialog to a Properties panel. Okay. Now, another thing that's been added is when we go to insert a frame. So I have a frame already sitting here, or a frame member that I want to pick. When I go over to the frame and my skeleton, it shows me a preview of that frame. Now, if I go and switch that type of component, so we're going to go in and change it to angle iron, just make it a little bit easier to see. We'll change the size. Again, when I hover over, I see the preview of that. So if I zoom in, you can see the preview. Now, when I go to the other side, because it's flipping the direction of where how that frame member is going to be projected on my skeleton, it changes the orientation automatically. Another thing that it allows you to do is when I go and I place my component in there, these were added in earlier versions of Inventor, this clip, making it easier so you don't always have to focus on the dialog box and orienting your frame member component. Another thing that's been added for 2021 is zooming functions. Now, I like this function, especially when you're working with a large frame and you've got a lot of components. You can zoom in, so there's different options for it. So I'm going to, in this option is, I'm going to zoom to that frame manipulator, making it easier for me to, when I'm working with large frames, to zoom in exactly on that same location, right? And that zoom function is on also other members or other functions within Inventor. So if I go to Change, I click on my component, you can see I can again zoom in. It's just not for inserting frame members. Okay, we're just going to hit OK there. We're not going to change anything. Another thing that's been added is, or I should say change, is the reuse function. In earlier versions of Inventor, or prior to Inventor 2021, when you wanted to go and reuse a frame, you had to pick the original member to do that. Now for 2021, you can use any of the reuse members. So what do I mean? In this frame generator, this component right here that I'm pointing to with my mouse pointer is the original member. The member over on this side is the reuse member. Now, I want to use this same channel on this skeleton line right here. So in the past, I would have had to pick the original reuse member. But in this case here, I don't have to anymore for Inventor 2021. So I'm just going to pick on reuse. And when I go to pick my component, it's actually going to highlight the original member that reuse was used, and it allows me to go and select that. Making it easier, I don't have to remember what the last or what the original reuse member was. Okay, so do that. Another thing that's been added for 2021 is the ability to trim and extend to a curved surface. All right, so we're going to go and trim and extend. And we are going to pick, this is my tool that I'm going to, or that's where I'm going to extend to, and what the frame members is that I'm going to extend to. So it allows me to extend. Now, with this function is that it's not actually curving the end piece. It's actually doing like a tangency to it. All right, so if we go into our frame here, I'm just going to go into Edit, and I'm going to right mouse click on this and turn the visibility off. And if we zoom in on those edge, it's tangency. It is not a curved surface, even though that we trim to that curved surface. So just keep that in mind. All right, so then we're going to go back and turn on the visibility of this component again. and then we'll go back out and edit it. Another thing that's been added is the ability when you're notching, so if we go back over our design, is when we're notching, we can now notch to a T-style shape or a C-style shape. So if we go to notch, all right, and so we have this to the normal beam notching that's always been there, but we now have a custom C template and a custom T template. So for example, I want to notch this C channel to this C channel here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick, this is my frame member, and this is my notching tool. Now when I come in here, because I'm doing this custom C, now I have the ability to notch that. We can set up different dimensional values to do that, making it easier to customize how we want our notch and not always allow Inventor to do that for us. For Inventor 2021, you now have the ability to measure inside of your drawing. When Inventor 2018 was released, there was a new measuring function. And one of the items that many users were upset was that you could no longer measure inside of an Inventor drawing. That is now possible again, or once again, inside of Inventor 2021. So if we go to Tools, Measure, and I want to measure between my axles of my toy truck, click on that one, that tire, and that tire, and as you can see, I'm measuring inside of my drawing. Again, this was removed in Inventor 2018, and now it's back in Inventor 2021. Another nice feature that I like, useful many years ago when I was doing design, is when I dimension a cylindrical component as a linear dimension, I had to manually always go and add the diameter symbol. So if I go to annotate now, and I pick my linear, or I'm doing a dimension, I'm doing linear dimension, but because Inventor knows that's a cylindrical part, as you can see, it automatically puts the diameter symbol there. But if I right mouse click and change the dimension type, and maybe I don't want the diameter symbol there, I can right mouse click, say dimension type, and switch it to parallel, and as you can see, the diameter symbol is gone. Or I can toggle it back again, dimension type, and do parallel diameter. In the past, when you went to Tools, Document Settings on the drawing, you could set up the default automated center lines, indicating that, hey, when I want to do automated center lines, these are the functions that I wanted to do. Well, this was standard across the drawing, and it was not individually per the view. For 2021, you now have the ability to control or change the settings per view. So you still set up the standard for your automated center line, so you can say, yes, I want to do it on fillets, I want to do it on cylindrical features, those type of things, and then I'm going to hit OK. All right. Now, under the Annotate, there is a new automated center line per the view. So I'm going to click on this view here, and I'm going to click on the automated center line settings for that view, and as you can see, it's taking on the default settings that we just set up. But maybe in this view here, I don't want you automated center lines for fillets, so I can individually control the automated center lines per view. In the past, when you had a drawing of a model that had reference components in it, so in this example here, my toy truck has this component here that is a reference component. The bottom of my crane is a reference component. Well, it was always clear, it was not as easy to describe to a user to how to control that. So it makes it a little bit easier now to understand. So if I right mouse click on it and edit this view, when I go to the model state, I have my reference data here. And as you can see before, it was, the terminology wasn't as easy for the display style. Now it says edges as reference or edges as part. So as references, you can see that it's that phantom outline. All right, I can toggle it to edges as part, hit OK, and as you can see, it's showing that outline as a normal part. Now that's always been there, but the terminology used to describe that wasn't always understand, so this makes it easier to do that. And one of the biggest thing that for 2021 for the drawings is now I have the ability to shade reference components. In the past, and as you can see, this drawing here, because of this bottom plate of my toy truck of the crane, is a reference components. In a shaded view, it would not display it properly. So again, I'm going to go into this edit view of my shaded view, go to the model state, and right now it's set to off, but now I can see edges as reference shaded or edges as part shaded. So those referencing components now have the ability to be shaded properly. So I'm going to say edges as part shaded. Now hit OK, and as you can see, it properly shades within my shaded views for reference components. For Inventor 2021, there has been enhancements to the Drawing Resource Sheet Formats interface. If you don't know what sheet format is, and I'm not going to go into detail or how to configure the sheet format interface, but basically allows you to configure a drawing template based on what views you want to use, notes, and those type of things, and save it as a sheet format and then use that to generate your drawing. It's kind of also a semi-automatic way of doing your drawing. It's not going to give you everything. It's not going to do dimensions, those type of things, but allows you to at least lay out your drawings based on a given drawing style that you want. For 2021, they've kind of reduced the number of sheet formats that are available in the provided templates when you install Inventor. In the past, I think there was like 7 or 8 of them. Now they're down to 3 of them. But one of the coolest thing that is for Inventor 2021 is when you go to create a new drawing, you have the ability to define what sheet format that you're using. In the past, you would have to start a drawing, then define the sheet format. So if I go to the File, New, as you can see, when I pick my drawing template, I have the sheet formats that are defined inside of my drawing template. So for example, and another nice feature that's been added for Inventor 2021 in the sheet format is now I have the ability to define my parts list, and also if I'm working with sheet metal components to do the blank layout. So I'm just going to pick this A size format here, sheet format, and I'm going to say create. It's going to ask me for the model, so I'm going to go and pick my sheet metal truck that I have here. So I'm going to go in my sheet metal truck, and I'm just going to pick my crane, hit open, hit OK. It's going to say, hey, the bill of materials is not enabled. Do you want to enable it? And we're going to say yes. The bill of material was not enabled on my crane, but we did it. So as you can see, in this A size sheet format that in that template, it's created the model, shaded model view, and then also done the bill of material structure. This has always been there, except you couldn't do parts list, you couldn't do sheet metal. But like I said, the nice new feature is the ability to do that sheet format selection prior to when you're creating the new drawing. The last favor of mine for Inventor 2021 is how I can control saving my model when dealing with file dependencies. For example, this toy truck assembly was created and saved in Inventor 2020. If I hit the Save button now in 2021, it is only trying to save the top assembly. The reason is based on, so we're going to hit Cancel here. If I go to Tools, Application Options, under the Save tab, you can see now you have options to control how you save. Out of the box, because I did this truck assembly in 2020, I am telling it to not save or prompt me to save and migrate all the components that are associated to this model. If I now go into the Save options and change for files that are being migrated to prompt to save to yes, and the default condition to save, when I hit the OK button out of Tools, Application Options and go to the Save, you can see now all my components of my toy truck are now being saved and migrated at the same time. One final thing on the new Save dialog when you're working with dependency is under the Save state, It indicates why you are saving or why that file needs to be saved. It gives you the reason. So for example, as we stated, that these files most likely are being saved because they are migrating. But the top toy truck assembly is because there was user edits to the model. So it gives you information about the reason behind why it needs to be saved. These columns are also sortable, and you can multi-select by doing normal Windows Control or Shift functions. Although the following items didn't make my favorite list for Inventor 2021, I still wanted to take a few minutes and show you those new features. For example, if I have a sheet metal component and I want to add a flange to it, so we click on flange. In the past, the flange angle had to be a dimensional value. What you could do now is in 2021, you can toggle it to say by reference and use a reference surface face on your model. So for example, I have the sheet metal component with a work plane at an odd angle. I don't know what that angle is. I can now select where the flange is and then use my reference, and it creates that flange or bends that flange at that given angle. If you use model-based definitions or the 3D annotations within your model, one of the things that you could do now for 2021 is to use custom eye properties. So as you can see here, I have a custom eye property in my sheet metal part. So under annotate, I'm now going to pick a leader text. Just select my edge, define my leader. And inside of here, now I can do custom eye properties of the models. And as you can see, our name, I'm going to insert it and then hit OK. Now my custom eye property is part of my 3D annotation. If I go and change that eye property and change the custom property, hit OK, as you can see the 3D annotation updates. And finally, and I know a lot of people have been requesting this, is now Inventor 2021 has a dark theme. If I go to Tools, Application Options, to the Colors tab, and under the UI Theme pull down, there's an option for the dark theme. Now keep in mind this is a pre-release. It's not fully functional dark theme. Autodesk is looking for additional feedback from the users based on this pre-release. So keep in mind that this is now a fully functional option, and certain dialogues and other features may still appear as a light theme. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on dark theme. Gives you information stating that, hey, this is a pre-release, it's not fully functional. We're going to hit OK or continue. Now hit OK. And what it does is it now transitions your light theme to a dark theme inside of Inventor 2021. There you have it, my favorites for Inventor 2021 and some additional ones that did not make my list, but they could be your favorite. Until next time.